All right, hello everybody. Thanks for joining us for the session today. We're excited to talk about updates from SMPTE and specifically our Rapid Industry Solutions group. My name is David Long. I'll be moderating the talk, hopefully interjecting a little bit, taking advantage of our wonderful experts up here to contribute to the conversation. I am Director of Magic Spell Studios at Rochester Institute of Technology, so I am integrated in the learning and teaching aspects of virtual production, research as well at the university. And also I am education co-chair for the education initiatives as part of Rapid Industry Solutions at SMPTE. And this Rapid Industry Solutions group is focused on OSVP, ICVFX work out in the industry. So we'll go down and introduce other members of the panel who are very, very active in the SMPTE initiative. Chaitanya.
Thank you, David. Hi, I'm Chaitanya. I'm the Vice President and Business Head for a film school back in India called Whistling Woods. I'm also a co-chair on the Rapid Industry Solution Education subsection. One of the many things we do at the film school is to focus on emerging media technologies and how to evangelize them into our curriculum. And that's how I got involved in virtual production. And, we'll talk later.
Jim Budolnik, Virtual Production and Visual Effects Supervisor. I co-chair the Interoperability Group at RIS. I've kind of been in visual effects and future technology and cinema experiential for the past 15 years. And it's been great to jump in early for Rapid Imaging Solutions Group to help connect the dots of what we do in interoperability, bringing in all the different end users and manufacturers and methodologies together.
Hi, I'm Ian McSpadden, Chief Technology Officer of Arizona Public Media. Work within the university environment to help train and teach the next generation of media engineers. In the last 3 years, I've built a hard set, a LED volume, and a green screen VR set. So have had experience in the challenges on bringing those all to life.
My name is Eric Rigney. I am a virtual production instructor with the Moses Academy of Virtual Production in Los Angeles. Before that, I was with the Entertainment Technology Center, USC's think tank, part of their R&D group in virtual production. And before that, I did 20 years in post-production over at Sony Picture Studios. Glad to be here.
All right, thanks everybody. I should also note we have a special guest in the audience. Dave Stump from the ASC is part of the RAS efforts as well. So when we get to Q&A, we'll do shout out. I'm sure there's stuff, Dave, you probably know better than many of us up here. So thanks for being available as well. So we're going to start just with a quick summary of what the RAS is and our major initiatives. So you heard we're broken down into education and we're broken down into interoperability. So those are the two main focus areas. On the education side specifically, we've got a few charges. There we go. This is the membership of the RIS. So again, as a general introduction, as SMPTE is adept, we've brought the industry together. Commercial enterprises, academia, researchers, all with the collaborative interest in solving virtual production technology concerns, workflow concerns, making it easier for everyone to adopt. It's obviously evolving very, very, very rapidly. SMPTE and standardization intentionally can be slow to make sure that there are robust solutions for technology deployment, but some of these things are moving too fast, and we have partners on this list who really want to see that move a little quicker, hence the new focus in a rapid industry solution, a rapid address of issues. Yes, thank you. So on the education side, which Chaitanya and I co-lead, we have a couple of charges, a couple of projects that we've been focusing on. The first has been standardizing ontology, standardizing workflow nomenclature, the way we summarize and describe the workflow of virtual production. And this is really critical. If we can't speak the same language, if we can't think of the workflow in a similar structure, we can't develop solutions and talk across one another's enterprises in an effective way. So we are begun by having constructed this classic SMPTE wall chart, technology workflow or wall chart. And for the last few months, we've actually been creating a digital version of this that will live as an entrance filter to a collection of curated educational materials online. So we have industry pros, we have a group of students as well, integrating them, evaluating resources that are out there from all the usual suspects and then some emerging suspects, and producing a curated learning journey, a curated collection of educational material that's been robustly confirmed. It's not the first thing that pops up in the YouTube search kind of stuff. It's actually been curated intentionally, so we're excited about that. Two other initiatives, of course, SMPTE participates in generating original educational material. If you're in the audience here and participated at all with IBC panels, with the SMPTE Plus programming, which is an online educational forum, and then also the SMPTE Media Technology Summit in October, we had sessions at each which were focusing on industry experts representing learning, research, and evolving understanding in virtual production, sharing case studies, sharing experience, which was fabulous. And then our final initiative on the education side that we're excited about is bringing industry contributors together to resource educational institutions to actually be able to teach this stuff. Commercially, it's accessible. In education, it's expensive. Well, commercially, it's expensive as well. But being able to bring in those who are expert in teaching to the ecosystem, get them well trained, and get them confidently teaching and presenting to students on state-of-the-art stuff, on things that are represented out in the field is a huge step burden for some institutions. Also, access to expertise. So we're, again, cultivating the support of RIS members through the SMPTE initiative who are going to speak to their expertise with academic institutions, providing site visits. We have stages popping up all over the world near universities who have media programs, so that access is important. And then we hope eventually to move into potential for equipment donation and equipment availability and other resourcing. So keep your eyes on the SMPTE RIS universe for that stuff. It's part of our initiatives and ambition for the RIS, and we're excited about bringing that out over the next few months and the next year. I'm going to hand it over next to Jim, who represents the interoperability side of RIS, to give a little summary of what that's all about.
Sure. So everybody that knows production as a whole takes teams of technicians, artists, creatives, all along the gamut of that. Anything in production, as it is in virtual production, ICVFX, keyword is interoperability. We're using a lot of different pieces of software, hardware, different teams, different technicians. You name it. It takes a village to get ICVFX and virtual production done. So one of the key focuses that we have been concentrating on for RIS is interoperability, working with a lot of the manufacturers, end users, individual contributors that basically make virtual production tick. Within interoperability, we have a couple of track charges that we've been working on, one of which is camera and lens metadata, or metadata as a whole, which is probably one of the most important things for a project, is tracking changes across the project. A lot of different assets, a lot of different metadata flowing around a production set, whether it be an independent, education, feature film, episodic, broadcast. Metadata is extremely important to us, whether it be a line producer down to virtual production or visual effects or post-production. So camera and lens metadata was one of our first tracks that we've been compiling about, not specific to making a standardization, but getting a lot of the manufacturers talking to each other, a lot of the end users talking to each other, and basically building out a framework. We have cinematographers, visual effects supervisors, virtual production supervisors, a lot of smart technicians and engineers, part of the interoperability group. And each one of you in the crowd is using virtual production in different ways. So it's really important for us at RIS to understand how different individuals, different education institutions, end users, and manufacturers are using virtual production. And that's one of the main goals for interoperability, is to not kind of boil the ocean for interoperability, but to get around the framework, because there's so many different ways to tackle virtual production in ICVFX today. We're trying to get a lot of the framework done with interoperability group as to like, what are the key staple things that we're all using? You know, we're all using different cameras, different lenses, you know, different software and hardware. What are the kind of key staple points that we can kind of tackle, get that information out there? So with camera and lens metadata, we have different technologies out there that we have both smart lenses and analog lenses that either pass data through a camera or pass data through fizz, focus iris zoom boxes, and different pieces of technology. So we're trying to get data relevant into packaged material that makes it easier for all of us to be using data piped through from camera, through game engine, whichever one, pick your flavor, Unreal, Disguise, Unity, Brainstorm, you name it. We're trying to simplify as it is the information coming from pre-production to on-set to post-production through the interoperability. So starting with camera and lens, moving through to camera tracking data, color calibration, asset creation. We're going to be tackling these in different tiers, if you will. So up first is camera and lens, next is camera tracking, followed by calibration, which is we could spend months on that alone. So these are the different tracks that we're stepping through.
Yeah, so I'm a color scientist. I'm really looking forward to that one. Obviously, getting the industry to come together to solve these problems is key. We all know that we succeed when we work together. We love that cliche, right? The rising tide lifts all ships. So that's really the spirit here. So for the rest of our conversation, we're going to kind of split into two halves. We're going to talk amongst ourselves about some of the education work that we've been doing and then flip over to interoperability and potentially future standards. So I'm going to open it with Ian. We talked as a panel before getting ready. What are some of the industry needs that you've seen and identified that we need to be conscientious about educating?
I began with SMPTE a couple years ago on the education outreach. I'm a membership director on the Western region for bringing new folks into, especially the younger generation, into the business. And part of that entails making them aware of what the industry involves. A lot of folks graduate college and it's like, oh, YouTube, Google, and all those exciting places. And the media industry, I think, hasn't done a great job up until this point. Oh, a little closer? Okay. I'm hearing my own voice, so I thought I was loud enough. But it's basically finding a way to engage the next generation and bring them in to the fold as far as, making media engineering something that's exciting. Some of the challenges that I've had when I was working with ASU, who's a RISC partner, was we've had folks come to us from NEP to EVS to Fox Broadcasting. They put their major distribution hub on campus location in Tempe, Arizona. They were going, great, you've got a school of 25,000 engineering students, but how do we create a pipeline for those folks into our industry? It's a combination of, an understanding of our industry, its uniqueness, the skill sets, and the creativity and aspect around content creation. Just having the technical skills is one thing, but I certainly found from, NEP, we sent a few of our students through, we had kind of a little boutique program started there. And they got to NEP and they were like, wow, not only are they fairly technically savvy, but they really understand the industry because of the programs that we had at ASU to really immerse them. Recently, ASU just launched the Mix program, which is basically virtual production studios in their Mesa project. And this was an initiative because we realized, and I built, like I mentioned, a hard set, an LED volume, and a green screen set, and just in the last 3 years. And each one of those, it was amazing when we went for resources like graphic artists, world builders, folks who are probably working in the gaming industry right now, but don't realize the opportunity that exists in our industry to engage and help on the creative process. Because it's not just about the technical students, but it's also about the creative students. World building is something that for gamers is just kind of matter of fact because it's the exciting portion of creating new worlds. Most television stations and broadcast production facilities are beginning to step into virtual media production, but the folks that run their chyrons and do their on-screen graphics have been living in a 2D world for years. Maya, Cinema 4D that were more common in the film industry and as well as in the gaming industry are skills that most TV stations don't have. So, the first station that I installed a green screen VR set in with the Moses product, it was funny because they tried to create sets and really had trouble, and we actually had to bring a vendor in to do it. The first LED volume I deployed up in Scottsdale at Bitfire Studios, it was the same challenge was, they had a partner that was in the gaming business that had artists that were used to kind of building that, but it was like, how do you port those skills over to VR set production? So, my goal has been working with SMPTE in trying to come up with curriculum to guide educational institutions. And this can be, many years ago, junior colleges provided 2-year technical degrees with the base skill sets to enter the industry with skills that were applicable. 4-year universities and an engineering degree are great. I had a computer science background before I got into the industry, but it's making them aware of not only the skills they need, but the opportunities within the industry, because I find there's a tremendous amount of exciting things that we do in content creation that I think a lot of folks that are looking to get into it probably don't know the path yet of, do I need to go to a 2-year technical college? Do I need to apprentice somewhere? Should I go to a 4-year college to get a technical degree or a master's degree or a PhD? What are the skills that are most applicable to what my end goal is as far as what I want to do career-wise?
That's great. Chaitanya, I'm going to hand it over to you. Chaitanya and I joke that so he's from Whistling Woods in India, and Whistling Woods is the RIT Magic Center of India, and the RIT Magic Center is the Whistling Woods of the U.S. So talk to us about working that curriculum into a higher ed institution.
Yeah, thanks, David. So, like I mentioned before, our goal as an educational institution is to prepare the next generation of filmmakers. Now, today, the next generation of filmmakers need to know how to work the virtual production workflow as well. So for us as a film school, it's incumbent that any student who graduates, well, honestly, before the first virtual production studio out there was operational, should have been well trained. However, that's not possible, so we are always playing catch up in academia. And one of the ways in which you can actually add value to the industry is to use the academic environment and the support that we get from the industry, as well as tech companies, as well as media and entertainment tech experts, to do problem solving, to figure out what isn't working right now in virtual production, and how do we try and get it to work. This is on top of making sure that students know everything that's already out there, right? So the way we go about it is that we set up a lab or a development center that works with these emerging technologies, creates content in it, looks at curriculum that's out there, talks to people who are producing, who are doing work, and then brings in industry professionals along with academics to write the curriculum. That then gets plugged into our existing filmmaking undergrad and postgrad programs, and then we hold our breath and wait for the first group of students to choose that as an elective, and then we really know whether it's working or it isn't. And over the last, we've done this for about 11, 12 years now over various technologies, so we have some sense of whether things are going right or no. And things are going right when the students start to get involved in problem solving. When they understand, they're able to wrap their head around the situation the world is in, and then they're able to say, oh, but this can't be done right now. Let me figure out a way how I can try and do it. Then they, use their academic ingenuity and to try and figure out a way around it with the support of faculty and industry professionals. And here is where faculty actually play a big role, especially if they're already from the industry, where they understand what are the problems, and that in academia things can work okay. In the industry, they have to work all the time perfectly, right? So when you look at that system and when you look at that kind of structure, what I'm going to do is just show a couple of situations where the Whistling Woods Emerging Media Lab actually engaged into specific problem-solving initiatives. And, I'll talk over what's playing out. So the first one was integration of a mechanical input into Unreal, into a game engine. So for example, the simplest thing is if you're walking towards or away from the wall, the pace that the wall zooms in or zooms out, as of now, or as of a month ago, used to be eyeballed by whoever was operating on set, because there was no way to actually track the speed of the person really walking with the speed at which the wall was zooming in and out. And there we had our senior faculty for virtual production, Vivek, who's sitting right there, who came up with an encoder to actually solve the problem. And what we essentially did was, So that the small black box, and we created an appendage that sits on a treadmill, and that encoder sends a signal real time to Unreal, and the object within the Unreal world is moving at the same pace as the person is walking. So whatever speed the treadmill is, run, jog, walk, whatever, right? And then what we did was first we applied it to an object, then we decided to apply it to a world, right? Because the two are quite different. So the next one is, sorry for the quality of the video, but it's a phone shot thing. So again, it's the same setup. We have one of our students walking on the treadmill, and this is a slightly more evolved version of the setup. It's plugged in, there's power supply, all that is sorted, and that signal is going real time to Unreal. So you can see the world is zooming out. That's Vivek on the camera. And yeah, so as you can see, the pace of the walking is clearly identified by how quickly or slowly the world behind is zooming in or zooming out. And you can do the same thing if the person is walking towards the LED wall as well. The next problem that we had that we noticed was that it was hard to marry a high-speed motion bot with Unreal, because the high-speed motion bots, they move with high speed and very high precision. And it's hard to replicate that motion on a VCam in a human operator manner. So you had to have a signal that was going from the robotic arm into Unreal to apply to the VCam, right? And there again, we had our friends from Sisu who sent over a bot, allowed us to open it up, and essentially install an encoder at the point where the control unit sends the signal to the arm. So the same signal is going to the robotic arm, the same signal is going into Unreal. In this case, there is, what, Vivek? No, how many frames dropped? No frames dropped, right? 0 frames dropped. So in this case, we were able to do it with 0 frames dropped. So I'll just show you a couple of short videos. So this was the first one that we tried. This is, an entirely CG world with, and once we were fine that we were getting it in, then we took it to our green box, and then we decided to apply it to, while being keyed out in a virtual world. It's a kitchen of some kind. Yeah, we need better actors.
So these are great examples of problem solving in academia.
Last one.
Okay.
And the third one is where we actually integrated a real set, a real world captured content onto the right. So yeah, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Chaitanya. Eric, I want to throw it over to you. So the ecosystem for learning is available online through the RIS resources, and you are responsible for education more in a commercial setting with Moses Academy. So talk to us about how you've taken advantage of it.
You know, one of the things I think is immediately apparent when you look at the chart that's been created, how complex virtual production is. It's also simple in that it's been broken apart. And I think just by seeing the chart, you can, a producer, anyone interested in getting involved in virtual production can immediately appreciate all that's entailed. So you're not really implementing a tool, you're implementing an ecosphere. And David spoke on a panel just about a couple hours ago, and one of the things that came out was that on a production, there's very few people who don't need to know about the overview of virtual production. You know, maybe the catering, maybe the transportation doesn't need to know, but everyone else needs to know. Perhaps the actors don't need to know because they're there for performance, but everyone from grips to gaffers to sound needs to be involved. And in designing our program, we're looking at that. What do producers need to know? What does the grip need to know? So working with the guilds, breaking that down, and using the chart as an example. What it provides, the chart, is a sort of a standardized view, which is difficult to do in an environment where the technology is changing so rapidly. How do you get a baseline? And so the chart offers that baseline from which you can then extract the different components to support the different skill sets, the crafts, and whatnot. So I'm using a chart as sort of a go-to, as sort of the spine of what else we're going to do. And then in getting into greater detail based on, for instance, if you take the camera guild, taking their classifications and then breaking out per classification, what do you need to know specifically for your position? And you probably want to know what the person in front and behind you are also doing. As we know, the lower the budget, the classifications start to dissolve a little bit in between. But I think that looking at it gives you a person a starting point. And what's going to be great is, as you're referring to, is the interactive quality that's going to come. So you'll be able to click on a box and get into deeper dives and have materials that you can read, white papers, other resources that can help guide that skill set into understanding what their role is in virtual production. So I think it's a valuable tool that's always growing and developing. It's never going to be done. This thing is going to be, it's a live document that'll continually grow and improve and get more and more details. So it's a great place to start.
Great. Ian, you had something to add?
Yeah, I like the way you described it as a roadmap because, each one of these sections, especially when it comes to the crafts and the trades, are so different. The sound quality on a virtual set, you've got hard floors and hard walls around you, really changes. The lighting requirements change to make a match a virtual set. Your talent, their skill sets will change because I've had people get dizzy on green screen, 4-wall green screen sets. They stand in the middle and they don't see a horizon or a ground. And on here, just a moment ago, when my background's spinning, it's disorienting to be sitting and watching the world move around you. So, having a roadmap like that so people really understand at each step of the way what they need to consider, not just from a technical standpoint, but also a creative and a craft standpoint, is hugely important to the industry.
Yeah, and one thing I would add is the value, and we can't overstate the value of pre-production, pre-visualization. And for instance, when you're going into lighting, the DP should be involved at the creative standpoint, talking to the artist, the gaming artist, right away to discuss how that's going to look. Have the camera operators get involved as soon as possible, but especially DP, the production designer, those conversations, that collaboration has to occur up front. So the cost savings only occurs if you have that front end well supported, very robust, not wait till last minute. Last minute and virtual production don't work.
All right, let's turn our attention. We've got a few minutes to focus on interop. So I'm going to send it back to Jim. What are some of the things the interop committee is working on right now? How will we see some of those results out in the industry proper shortly?
Sure. So with the first track of camera and lens metadata, we're getting ready to put some of that knowledge out into the public. Publishing will be coming out soon of probably the past year that we've been working on it, just because camera and lens is such a diverse and extensive background. There's a lot of cameras out there, there's a lot of lenses, a lot of technology supporting both. So over the past year that we've been working on this first track of camera and lens metadata is getting out there the differences between visual effects and in-camera visual effects. Some of them blend over together, some of them might be specific to one or the other. You would cheat your charts differently for visual effects plates than you would for calibrating lens for ICD effects. Even though there's overlap, there's definitely certain classifications of the technology and the methodology for that. So one of the first things that we've been working on is to get the framework and get this packet of data published around that, not only with GitHub resources, but also the documentation around those. So camera and lens is going to be first up to that. As you said, camera tracking has already kicked off. That's another one that's been around for quite a while that has kind of rooted itself for motion capture. So as we step through these different tracks that we have out there, we're going to be publishing more and more data quicker. It took a long time for camera lens to get done because it was the first track and it's extensive. So now that we've gotten that first one under our belt, camera tracking being up next, and then calibration and color science after the fact. And as we step through these different iterations and tracks of focus, we'll be publishing on a regular basis all of this data that will be published through SMPTE and into the journal post.
Yeah, that template is so important, right? We're bringing a bunch of people together who've not worked as closely as they are in this initiative. So it's huge to get that experience in those first projects underway. So speaking of tracking, Eric, I feel like you represent a tracking company. How does this collaboration in the industry benefit you who have that very particular service and product set for the industry?
So Moses has an inside-out tracking system, and it was important for me to make sure that Moses had participation, that they came to the table, because a lot of different technologies come to the table, and something like this, interoperability, is what it requires. And I think what happens is that you start to help. It's so new, all of this. You want to help shape it so it goes in a positive direction, so that the user ultimately has a pleasant experience, or fewer hiccups, fewer road bumps. And I think by having this interoperability and getting companies like Moses and competitors to all play nice in this sandbox is a challenge. And we're always reminded of that before the meeting starts, to be careful. But what it does, it also helps you get insight into what is being looked at, what's necessary, so that you sort of align your development with the vision of what is being seen by the industry as a whole, not just in your own bubble.
Well,
That's great.
And this will save a tremendous amount of time and money too, because the first LED volume that I deployed, talking to the DPs that had deployed previous ones, it was amazing when it came to the sensor. Is it single sensor? Is it dual sensor? Is it global shutter? All these elements that you wouldn't think would affect it. Even different brands. Oh, that vendor hasn't solved their problem yet. Oh, this vendor has noise. So having these guys go through and really vet some of these challenges ahead of time will really, again, save time and money for the industry.
I say that at SMPTE RIS or Switzerland. So like when everybody joins the meetings, they put on a happy face, and even though there are competitors within there, the main goal is we're all trying to share data, information, and our expertise as either chairs or co-chairs or individuals or manufacturers as well. Is the greater good is for information getting out there as to this very fast-paced term that is virtual production, which is an umbrella for a lot of traditional production, real-time technologies, broadcast technologies, all mixing together to be a new creative tool for storytellers to use. So that's our main goal for RRS, and especially interoperability in education. Is like there's 1,000 different ways you can approach a virtual production project, and there is no one manufacturer to rule them all, if you will, for this. So it definitely takes a village to get this one going.
That's great. I think that's a really nice sentiment for us to formally end on. We want to open up to the crowd here for any questions you've got. Rachel's got a microphone we can take around, and I figured I would call on Dave first. I knew you had some input ready to go.
Yeah. Good afternoon, guys. Thank you for all your work on the SMPTE RIS. Can the group or individually, can you say something about the importance of terminology, syntax, and definitions? Because it's okay if I don't use the same word to communicate something to you, but if a machine doesn't use the same word to communicate something to another machine, it's a problem.
It's a problem when the human beings don't use the same words too. I spend so much time with my students saying, stop using the colloquially wrong word for some, physics or engineering attribute. So it works for the humans too.
Yeah. So DP to DP, if you have an engine operator and you're asking them to, stop down, open up, their terminology if they're coming from a game engine or games world into physical production, they may not know the same film terminology as us. So those settings might not even exist in engine today. So it's really important for education and for physical production to all be discussing with this. And one of the things of terminology into like the virtual production glossary that's been published too, that I think a lot of us have given feedback to is there may be different terminologies in broadcast film from games to other engineering. So it's really important as we talk about these different productions. Somebody may call something different if they come from a different background. So it's one thing about sharing that information or just taking the time that if you're an engine operator, go speak to the DP to understand what his or her call-outs may be when they ask for a track change, either on set or in a DP session. So it's really important to discuss those terminologies.
Yeah, and you raise a good point. We haven't talked a lot about games necessarily, but that's becoming integrated. It took me a while to figure out that a technical artist in games was really the same as a TD in film and animation. So that's a great point there, just understanding what the roles are and what the different industries call things. Anyone else? Other questions we've got?
So, I just want to add on to that real quick. So it's for a glossary of terms, it's called vpglossary.com. So they're trying to homogenize the nomenclature. For instance, they would say brain bar, now we call it volume control, and things like that. So there is an attempt, and vpglossary.com is one of those attempts.
There's also a Discord that you can join for that as well. If you go to the website, there's an access link that you can join the Discord, which is a lot of us, and I'm sure a lot of people in the crowd are also participate there. Yeah, it's a big one, especially when we're talking about lighting. We can spend a whole another few weeks talking about film lighting versus engine lighting.
This is a real quick question. Is this document also available?
Yeah, if you
actually,
visit SMPTE.org, it's available publicly right now.
Cool.
you could scan the QR code, it will take you there.
Okay, great.
This is an evolving, just like virtual production is, as new terms, new technology, new methodologies come on, this is basically going to be a living document / website.
Also, what the next stage of this is going to be to make each of these boxes and the boxes within them active. So if you click on it, you will see the latest educational material that has been put out by all of these contributors related to any particular item. So there'll be a list of it. You can click on it, view it, go to it, learn it. So this is in addition to the wall chart itself being a learning tool. It's also pointing you in the direction of multiple learning tools that all the contributors have put out.
And if you want to join and help us out, if you're not a Center member already, you can join as an individual contributor. If you're part of an education institution or manufacturing company, you can still help us out by joining.
Yeah, this is huge, probably the most important point. We have so many new companies, so many new individuals who would not have thought to be part of the SMPTE universe, who are recognizing they have a contribution to make here. It's been so exciting to meet some new folks. So absolutely, if this is intriguing, if you think you've got something to contribute, this is an open community. Please reach out. You can check in, again, through the SMPTE.org resource here, find folks to connect with. We've got our friend Ryan in the back. He's the extremely tall one. Yeah, he's not hard to find, but Ryan is leading the project on behalf of SMPTE, keeping the rest of us as volunteer contributors in line, so we appreciate Ryan as well.